Okay. Let's get this party going, I guess, huh? All right, this meeting is going to be recorded and the audio file will be available at the office of the city clerk, and it's going to be posted on the city's YouTube channel as soon as practicable. Okay, to join the meeting virtually, please use the following methods. We've got Zoom and phone call. Do I need to put the numbers down, say the numbers?
No,
Okay.
you can just state the time.
Okay, and the time is 5:33. Call to order, roll call, okay. We'll start,
I can call it for you.
please.
Okay. So when I say your name, you can just sort of turn your microphone on to indicate if you're here. Commissioner Admire,
Present.
Vice Chair Paula Donato,
Present.
Commissioner Davis,
Present.
Commissioner Diaz. Just joining us virtually.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Finland.
Present.
We have Commissioner Meyer, who's excused right now, who may be joining us late. Commissioner Moralia,
Present.
Commissioner Nagaya,
Present.
Commissioner Page,
Present.
and Commissioner Spellman is excused. So we have all members present with Commissioner Spellman and Commissioner Meyer excused.
Okay, at this time, we want to report the posting of the agenda.
So we have posted the agenda for this meeting last week on Wednesday, October 18th, in accordance with our public meeting posting requirements.
Okay, so do we have approval of minutes?
So, second,
So, Commissioner Davis.
Davis and Moralia, is that right?
Mhm.
Okay, and then I will roll call. Commissioner Meyer,
approved.
Vice Chair Paula Donato,
Approved.
Commissioner Davis,
Approved.
Commissioner Diaz,
Approved.
Commissioner Finland,
Approved.
Commissioner Moralia,
Approved.
Commissioner Nagaya,
Approved.
Commissioner Page,
Approved.
motion carries.
Okay, public comment. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address Parks and Recreation Commission on agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Although the commission values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, it generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. 3 minutes are assigned for each speaker.
We're gonna take speakers in the room first.
Sure, welcome.
Hello, I'm Gary Armstrong, Chair of the Public Arts Commission. I've got an update on a project and a discussion of something that sort of got out of the bag a little early. The update is the A's Memorial that is going in the downtown park. I don't know if you've heard, there's been a discussion in the media about it. I just want to let you know that the piece is being entirely redesigned. We have not seen it yet. And when it is redesigned, the task force and the artist is ready to present it for review, it will go through the same process. It will go through the Arts Commission, it will go to council again. And until that point, there's no other action we can take because the piece is not created. There's nothing tangible with the piece. It was a sketch. So it's not like it's going to be snuck in the middle of the night or anything like that. So it's just a concept, which is being redone. So nothing else on that. However, in the same meeting, I think I was here about 3 or 4 months ago and talked about how council had given the Arts Commission a directive to put big pieces of art in the parks. And the parks that they discussed first were James O. Jesse, Victoria Park, and Duluth. They wanted us to focus on those 3. And when I talked to the council meeting 2 months ago, they sort of said, well, why just those 3? Do it in every park. I was like, okay, we got the money, we'll do it. In the last week's commission meeting, I sort of was addressing this with the commission and said, you know, I came across this thing about shade structures as art. And I just said, here's an idea, maybe we take the shade structures of the art projects we're doing and we turn them into shade structures. Not all art needs to have social relevance. Sometimes art is just beautiful. Sometimes art can be utilitarian. I said, we've got some big open parks. And I even referenced James O'Jesse. I said, that's some a really harsh environment up there that's big and open. Maybe we could do this amazing sculptures that are shade structures as well. Coincidentally, then Palm Springs Post picked up on it and said, they're doing shade structures in the park. I'm like, And meanwhile, I said this to Yvonne like 2 weeks ago. I said, hey, no rush, let's talk about this later. Anyway, so we're talking about it now. I was also contacted by one of your fellow commissioners and said, I want to do this with you if I'd like to help you out. So the point in this is if any of you are interested in being on sort of an ad hoc committee on this or however we discuss it, I'm also discussing this with the Sustainability Commission next month. Because my strategy, as I mentioned in the write-up, is that the Arts Commission will sort of solicit the art, working with the Parks Commission to determine where in the parks it's best utilized. Sustainability gets involved because obviously it provides sun and shade. And then ultimately we would go together as a group to Measure J and help fund these. And Measure J, if you know, is doing a call for the community grants again. So if we can get our act together, we then can go and do the community grants for this in a big way. And I think that this would be a good way for, if we can get 4 commissions working together, that is a miracle. So, okay. So no comments, I know there's no questions. However, if any of you would like to work on this with us and one of your fellow commissioners, you can let Yvonne know and she'll pass them on to me and then we'll deal with something. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Any further?
Let me just check to see if we have any members who are joining us via Zoom. If you can just use the raise hand feature. If you have a public comment. Okay, looks like we do not have any additional public comments.
Okay. Director's report.
Okay, at each meeting, I like to give you a report of some of the items that are in motion at the Parks and Recreation Department. I usually start with our city council items. So since our last commission meeting in September, council has met twice. We did not have any Parks and Recreation action items on those agendas. But coming up this week on Thursday at the October 26th council meeting, we will have the contract for our Parks and Recreation Master Planning Consultant. And that item is on the consent agenda. We operate 2 of our facilities, James O'Jesse and Demuth, as pooling centers. Our pooling centers just ran through October 13th as the weather has now gotten nicer. So our pooling centers are now no longer in action. However, starting on December 1st, we will switch over at James O'Jesse and Demuth to operate warming centers out of both of those facilities. And you can see the hours there on the screen for those services for the community. Some fun photos of some things that have been in motion. This is some of our youth programs, our FKO, which stands for Kids Only. Club Day, I think that happened last month. This was sort of a fun day where kids got to choose the activities that they would participate in, with some kids choosing to do arts and crafts, some as well doing some of our video games. Our Pee Wee Rec crew, those are our little 3 to 5 year olds. They went to Oakland Orchard to do a apple picking field trip. So just some photos of that activity. We had our game night at the James O'Jesse Center on Friday, October 6th from 4 to 6. This was really well attended by the community. So here's just some photos of that activity as well. National Hispanic Heritage Month, I talked about last month, so that ran from September 15th to October 15th. We did a variety of events, but since the last commission meeting, on Friday, September 29th, we had a paint party at the Demuth Community Center from 5 to 7, and here's some photos of our artists and their artworks for that event. And then we did Loteria as well. We did 2 nights of Loteria, but this was our Loteria on October 6th, also at the Demuth Community Center, and some photos of that event. And that closed out our National Hispanic Heritage Month. For Friday, October 13th, we had a spooky Friday. So we did Hocus Pocus 2 in Sunrise Park. That one we had probably about 25 people or so attended that event. So not huge turnout, but great movie for those who actually came out to get to see it. Free popcorn as well. On Saturday, October 14th, we did our annual floating pumpkin patch event at the swim center from 1 to 3. This event was attended by, I think, over 200 people came out to dive into the pool, get pumpkins, as well as decorate them. So here are some of those photos as well. And I think next year we even need to buy more pumpkins because I think we actually ran out during the day. But those who came really enjoyed that event. It's kind of a fun one. The State of the City obviously took place on Tuesday, October 17th. I know I saw many of you there at the event. If you were unable to attend, you can actually watch the presentation on YouTube. Here's just one of the photos of the mayor up front with one of our Parks and Recreation slides. So Parks and Recreation did get a lot of great shout outs during that presentation. For the first time, our procurement department ran a vendor fair. So basically for those providers who were interested in doing business with the city of Palm Springs, and we were invited to participate as well. So that was just on Wednesday, October 18th. It was a 2-hour fair, and anyone who provides supplies or services was welcome to come to learn about the types of things that different departments purchase. So we were on hand to talk about all the different things that we purchase and services that we contract for in Parks and Recreation. And that, I believe, is going to become an annual event. Our Duluth Community Center, or DCC Flea Market, has now kicked off again. So they are going to do 6 Saturday sessions. So we just had the first one this past weekend from 8 to 12. It's a $10 sort of table fee. And then those who want to come out can basically sell any items. We did it inside the Duluth Community Center this past weekend. So that's one that would be helpful if you guys can help us get the word out about that one. The next flea market will be on Saturday, November 18th for that. And that just started last year. So this is the second year that we're doing our flea market. Overseeding. So this is a slide that I'll show you at each of our meetings to show how we're doing on the progress of our annual grass overseeding in our parks. So Cerritos Field has been started and finished. So that's what the green indicates. The yellow indicates our parks that have started but are not completed yet. So Duluth Downtown Park, Bristow, Desert Highland, Francis Stevens, and Victoria Park are all in motion. And then our last 4, Ruth Hardy, Sunrise, City Hall, and the stadium have not started yet. So at each meeting, I'll just sort of give you guys an update on how we're doing on our annual grass overseeding. The City Hall Dog Park does get closed when the grass overseeding takes place. So this is always one that we pay particular attention to, and we post signage on that dog park as well. So City Hall Dog Park, large and small dog parks will be closed November 6th and reopen on December 13th. And we'll talk a little bit more about dog parks later in this meeting. Some other items that have been ongoing, some maintenance and repairs, Ruth Hardy Park and Demuth Park. Our maintenance and facilities team has been replacing the light bulbs as well as looking into some repairs on the ballasts on our tennis and pickleball courts. At Sunrise Park, our dance studio had some water damage in the wall, so the wall was repaired and we had new dance bars installed. Demuth Community Center actually got a new kitchen sink inside of the community center. The swim center had pool lights replaced as well as some of the pillar deck lights. And a leaking water fountain was also repaired at the swim center. Sunrise Park, we had the ceiling tiles that were sort of falling down, replaced in the pavilion, as well as some light bulbs replaced in the pavilion as well. We do get a lot of sort of questions and comments about maintenance. So at each of our meetings, we don't normally report out on some of our maintenance items, but I think moving forward, we'll try to always include an update on what's happening in our parks and facilities from a maintenance perspective too. Save the date. So those are the things that have already happened. We have a lot of things. We're sort of in our busy event season. So I have a bunch of save the dates for you and everyone who may be listening in. So Thursday, October 26th is our Village Fest Halloween event. So this is a fun sort of trick or treat event. It's costume contest as well. So 6 to 10, same time, same place on Palm Canyon.
No zombies this time?
There will be zombies, I think. I think there's always zombies, aren't there? It's gonna be a haunted bus, a pumpkin patch, come out as zombies. This Saturday in Sunrise Park, we are doing a trick or treat event from 6 to 8 p.m. And this again is a free event. Games, prizes, costumes as well. We're calling it Festival of Frights. On Halloween, so Tuesday, October 31st at the James O. Jesse Center, they are doing their annual Halloween Carnival and Haunted House. The entry is $1 for the carnival as well as $1 for the haunted house. It's a really popular event that they put on each year that Parks and Recreation puts on. That will be from 4 to 7 on Halloween. On Wednesday, November 1st, we'll be doing our Dia de los Muertos event at the Duluth Community Center again from 5 to 8. Friday, November 3rd is the 3rd anniversary of Come Ride With Us, which we refer to as Crew. So that event will be taking place from 4 to 6 p.m. On Sunday, November 5th, of course, we have the 37th annual Palm Springs Pride Parade. Coming up for our Veterans Day activities on Thursday, November 9th, we will be doing a special Veterans Day honor at our Village Fest. On Friday, November 10th, our veterans will get a special appreciation lunch. And that one is an RSVP just to our department to help us out with making sure that we've got the right number of box lunches. And then, of course, on Saturday, November 11th, we will have our annual Veterans Day Parade at 3:30 p.m. with a concert and fireworks finale. Looking ahead even further, if it's okay to start talking about Christmassy holiday things. November 30th, we will kick off our sort of seasonal Christmas activities at Village Fest. On Friday, December 1st, we will have our annual tree lighting at Francis Stevens Park. The actual tree lighting starts at 5:15, but if you come early at 4:30, you can partake in some of the fun craft activities for kids as well as see some of the performances. Saturday, December 2nd is our big annual Festival of Lights parade. Sunday, December 3rd, we are doing a special downtown shopping event for the holidays. And then on Saturday, December 16th, Parks and Recreation is doing our annual Breakfast with Santa event. So it probably feels a little bit early to talk about our December things, but I wanted to just make sure that we got some of those dates out there now. We are also working on, this is pretty exciting, our community outreach meeting for projects. And later in tonight's agenda, obviously, our ad hoc commissioners will talk more about these. But for saving the date, Wednesday, November 8th, we will be doing a community outreach meeting to talk about our pickleball court expansion project. That will start at 5 p.m. at the Duluth Community Center. And our design team, Kimley Horn, will be on hand to talk about some design concept and get feedback from the community. One of the other significant projects that we're working on is the improvements to the swim center. That outreach meeting will be on Tuesday, December 5th. That one we're doing inside the Leisure Center at 5 o'clock. Same thing there. Our design team, Interactive Design Corporation will be on site to talk about their design concepts and to get feedback from the community as well. We always talk a little bit about hiring because we do have a fairly large number of vacancies still in our department. So we are currently right now hiring additional lifeguards as well as a program coordinator. And we'll continue to advance our other recruitments that are still vacant as we move forward. And that completes my director's report for today.
Very good, Yvonne.
Thank you.
Okay. So presentation and action item. So we need a new chair.
So as I think you also, Chair Alcorn has stepped down from his seat. So to elect a new chair, what we need is to open nominations for those who might be interested in chair, and I'll let our vice chair do that. And then after we have those nominations, we'll do a motion and a second, and then we'll do a formal roll call vote to elect our new chair of our commission.
So is there anybody in the commission right now that wants to put their name in the ring or name in the hat?
I'm gonna put my name in.
Okay, good.
I nominate Johnny.
I thank you there, young lady. That's Commissioner Diaz, by the way. Thank you. So, if I can say a few words real quick, I have a lot on my plate, so I'd like to stay vice chair. And if I could say, I was looking at maybe John Moralia as a step in for Chair Alcorn. Yeah, I'm just, that's just my opinion, and it's, I think this is, we've got a lot of good staff here, so anybody else who wants to put their name in, other than Michael, Commissioner Finland.
I'll put my name in since you can mention me.
Okay.
So Commissioner Finland and Commissioner Moralia? Is that it? Okay, so then we would do each one. We would need a motion and a second. So do you want to call for a motion and a second for Commissioner Finland?
Definitely call motion for Commissioner Finland.
Motion.
Second.
And then we would roll call vote. Commissioner Meyer,
Yes, I agree.
Commissioner or Vice Chair Coladonato,
I'd like to see John, and that's where my vote is.
Commissioner Davis,
I'm sorry, can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Was the vote for, I was under the impression the vote was for
Commissioner Finland.
not just the nomination, the actual vote.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I thought it was, you were nominating candidates and seconding them and.
To choose one right now.
You do have to choose, yes, you have to choose a chair.
Yeah.
You do.
No,
Do you want me to back up?
yeah, let's,
Okay, so let's back up then. So we have two nominations on the table. So we have Commissioner Finland and Commissioner Moralia. So then we need to see if we have a motion and a second. We would likely start with Commissioner Finland. And then if we don't have a motion and a second, then we would go to Commissioner Moralia. And then do a roll call vote.
So I put a motion, well, we're putting the motion in now. I'm going with John. That's where my vote is.
Yes, I don't know where everybody else's vote is, though.
So I
You can-
second the nomination of John. Is that where we're at?
Yes, that's a motion and a
Yes.
second. And then we would roll call vote to see if that motion passes. So we now have a motion from Vice Chair Coladonato, and then we have a second from Commissioner Diaz for Commissioner Moralia to take the chair seat. But we would need to have a majority vote for that to take place.
so just to clarify, did we already vote on Commissioner
We
Finland?
did not.
Okay.
We did
that's the
not get through the
confusion.
vote on Commissioner Finland.
So do we just go around and say Moralia or Finland, or what, how do we do this?
We typically just roll call it.
Okay.
I mean, we could probably try to do it the other way, and then we could line up the numbers, but typically what happens is whichever sort of commissioner gets a motion in a second. If that passes, then we then we've elected our chair. If that makes sense, because we already have enough votes to elect that commissioner as chair.
So
As
the roll
opposed to-
call you're doing
Is-
is for
yes.
Commissioner Finland. And so a positive is a vote for Commissioner Finland to be the chair.
Yes, but I think we need to decide who we're actually voting on right now, because I think we had two motions that went forward, with the recent motion being made by Vice Chair Donato and seconded by Commissioner Diaz for Commissioner Moralia.
Yeah, I think that was the confusion. I think that was the confusion that if we were actually.
If we were actually
or not
voting for,
To
yes.
John's point about,
Okay, so so we're still good with we have got a motion and a second on the table. Are we good to do that vote or no? And then I'll
This would be yay or, this would be yay or nay for John,
yes.
correct? Okay.
Mhm. Okay, so I'll roll call that vote. Does that sound right?
For John, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that we know who we're voting on. Okay,
So if we start with Commissioner Najaya,
that's a yes.
Commissioner Davis,
No.
No,
Commissioner Mayor,
No,
and my vote's for John.
yes. Okay,
My vote's for John.
so that's the motion that's on the table. Got it, yes.
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay. And then we need Commissioner Diaz.
Yes.
That motion did not. Five. Did not pass, all right?
It did pass.
Oh, I'm counting two commissioners that aren't here. Yes, I count Commissioner Meyer, Commissioner's comment, so that motion passed. Okay, so that would be Commissioner Moralia. Would be our next chair,
Okay,
or our chair.
is there, since it's very new to me on something like this, so what's next after that point?
So I would recommend that you continue to just sort of vice chair the meeting, just for
Sure.
continuity, if that makes sense. With Chair Moralia.
Of course.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we have the presentation for the Sunrise Park 50th anniversary.
So to kick this one off, I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware that 2025, of course, is the 50th anniversary of the Palm Springs Swim Center. So we are trying to figure out at Parks and Recreation what types of activities we want to do to celebrate that 50th anniversary. It's also the 50th anniversary, of course, of Sunrise Park. And in 2025, after a year of master planning, which will really commence in late 2023 and go through 2024, it will be our implementation phase for the Parks and Recreation master plan. So we are trying to figure out what types of events and activities and celebratory things we would be doing. Our staff has not really done anything significant yet in terms of the planning. And of course, we'd want to reach out to our Sunrise Park neighborhood and set up a group to help in that planning. One of the most amazing things in this process and project is that we have Tom Dole, who has been thinking about the 2025 celebration as well. So I am going to hand it over to Tom, who is going to sort of walk through, I'm gonna give you the whole laptop. Okay, so you can click through, some of his ideas for the 2025 celebration. And then the cooking will be right there.
All right, thank you, Yvonne Weiss and commissioners, for this opportunity. I'm a regular swimmer at the swim center, and first I want to thank you all for bringing the swim center back to us. It's been a torturous journey for all of you, I'm sure, but we really appreciate it. It's now open at 6 a.m. I swim there almost every day at 7, and it's been a lifesaver, so thank you very much. Anyway, this started actually 5 years ago when I started swimming at the swim. Actually, I had been swimming for a while then, but when I realized that a lot of people don't really know the swim center is there and they don't know how to get there, and signage is a big problem. So that's a real problem, but I really wanted to learn more about all of Sunrise Park. So I did some pretty extensive research, and I discovered some very interesting history and information that led to this larger initiative. I've shown this presentation in various forms over the past few months to civic leaders, both within government and in outside organizations. And each time I get more great feedback that I incorporate into the presentation. Although this started with an idea I had, it has really become a group vision that reflects some wider concerns of the community as we confront the future of our parks. This is the shorter form for public viewing, and there is a much longer form available with even more detailed information and history, which is really quite fascinating. The history of Sunrise Park is actually pretty compelling. I should add that this is coming from a private citizen as an unsolicited and unpaid initiative that I hope will jumpstart a city-led process for reinvestment in our parks. So I call this Golden Sunrise. It's an initiative to renew Sunrise Park and celebrate 50 years of Palm Springs public recreation. Sunrise Park is really a central park in the heart of Palm Springs. It's the block bounded by Sunrise on the west, Baristo on the north, Ramon on the south, and the high school on the east. It's amazing how many people in the city don't actually know that that's a park. It's the largest concentration of recreational facilities and the largest historic campus of public buildings by prominent Palm Springs architects. It has the most natural shade of any city park, although I have found out recently that many of those trees have reached the end of their natural life, so that's going to be a continuing problem. It's also the only park that has direct access to stores, restaurants, and coffee shops, and that makes it of particular interest, especially to parents with children and other events that go on there. So before it was Sunrise Park, it was the Polo Grounds. That was built in 1950 with funds from a $400,000 bond issue, which is quite quaint when you think about a $400,000 bond issue. And it did include all of the following facilities: the baseball stadium that is still with us, the horse track and paddocks, which was the site of the Desert Circus and Rodeo and a lot of the equestrian cowboy culture that Palm Springs was known for in the day. It also incorporated the Pavilion Community Center, which was a former 1941 roller rink by John Porter Clark, a very well-known architect. Proposition R was a bond issue that was passed by voters in November of 1972. It was a $5 million general obligation bond for an ambitious plan to expand community recreation in response to a 1972 study. It included in the Polo Grounds to build a new community pavilion, a public library, a community recreation center, a swim complex, and park landscaping. At Francis Stevens School, it was going to be purchased and create a senior center and park. DeMuth Park would be enlarged by 40 acres with new lighted Little League fields. Desert Highland Park would be enlarged by 5 acres with a new community recreation building as well. And bicycle trails were built throughout the city, which I was at a party this weekend and found out that that's another area that needs some attention, is the bicycle trails. So I'll include that in a future presentation. There were high-profile local architects who were hired to create a master plan. William Cody was actually the city architect at the time. He was a prominent architect, and he headed the Palm Springs collaborative team of 9 local architects, including Donald Wexler, Richard Harrison, Hugh Capter, and Michael Black, and added to the team were landscape architects David Hamilton and Michael Buccino. They were responsible for all of the projects resulting from that bond issue. There was a lot of drama in between because the buildings were first proposed in 1973, and any of you know your history, if you're old enough, you'll know that that was the gas crisis and a lot of other problems. So there were a lot of extensive cutbacks, redesigns, rebidding. But everything ended up opening in 1975 to great fanfare. I will put an aside in that the original swim center by Hugh Captor was 3 times the size that it was built. It also included grandstands, a snack bar, outside seating, and some other really nice features that were cut. So I hope when the new plan comes in, which may go over budget, that we can get the money together and do it right this time. So anyway, despite the high inflation and the cutbacks and delays, all facilities were delivered as promised and opened with parties, community events, and celebrations. I did a lot of research through the old Desert Sun archives, and several times a week, every single week, there was an article about something going on in one of these parks. So it was really a treasured thing for the city at that time. So this is Sunrise Park in 1974, right before everything opened. You'll see the original pavilion is still down there in the bottom center. This is looking east from Sunrise. The library is just being completed. The Dr. Frey JC building is there by C.W. Doty. That was built later in 1960, or earlier than this in 1966, but after the Polo Grounds. The stadium, which is still there, the swim center, and the pavilion and leisure center, which are nearing completion. The fire station by Clark and Frey from 1950, which then became the Mizell Center in 1990, and the Boys Club from 1958. This visionary expansion of public recreation throughout the city, designed by prominent local architects and centered in Sunrise Park, was supported and celebrated by the Palm Springs community. It helped secure our reputation as a premier resort city. But years of neglect and deferred maintenance have taken their toll. The Pavilion and Leisure Center are shabby, showing their age, not upgraded, and underutilized. The landscaping is tired, mostly turf, and non-sustainable. There is inadequate identity signage and non-existent directional signage. This is my favorite example of confusing and inadequate signage. We have 3 monument signs for the library, and each one has a different name for the library. We have the Palm Springs Library Center, the Palm Springs Public Library, and the Sunrise Plaza Library Center. This is the main entrance to the park, although you wouldn't know it. There's absolutely no signage here. There is nothing that tells you this is how you enter the park. All of the facilities in the park, including the parking. I can't tell you how many times I've told people the entrance is right there on Sunrise at this Pavilion Way, and no one can find it, but there's no sign. There's no particular visual identity. There's vast expanses of empty lawn, bland tombstone-like signage, hard to find entrances, inadequate directional signage, and poorly placed public art that don't convey a welcoming space for public recreation. So I've developed this 4-part vision to renew Sunrise Park, and this isn't just me. Again, it was with a lot of other feedback, and a lot of you who have known about a lot of these things also for a long time. So number 1 is historical protection. Number 2 is sustainability and solar. Number 3 is better signage and identity. And number 4 is restoration, renovation, and adaptive reuse. Number 1, historical protection. Sunrise Park Historic District. With a rich history in the city's culture since the 1920s and 9 significant structures by prominent local architects, Sunrise Park is the largest campus of its kind and a unique historical asset that should be celebrated and protected. Historic designation opens the door to state and federal grants and foundation and private funding opportunities. Number 2, sustainability and solar. Create a modern desert landscape. Establish Sunrise Park as a leader in sustainability. Strategic turf removal, desert landscaping, tree planting along the perimeter of the park, and shade structures. Extend that program then to other city parks. But the sun in Sunrise Park creates shade and generate power via solar roofs, parking lots, and shade structures at the pool. Interestingly, there were actually 3 previous proposals in the 1970s to use significant solar installations for pool heating. And as we know, since then, the technology has advanced considerably. Number 3, better signage and identity. The first part of that is new perimeter landscaping. Re-landscaping the perimeter areas would identify and define the park, make it more appealing, create shade for the sidewalks, and contribute to sustainability. Give the park a visual identity. Attractive identity and informational signage in landscaped beds would have a dramatic and immediate impact on the perception of the park. Mark the entrance. New directional signage on Barista will highlight the main entrance to Sunrise Park at Pavilion Way. Create highly visible Ramon Road signage. That wall of the swim center, which is just a blank wall at the moment, along with a nice monument sign and some great landscaping, would make a huge addition to people understanding what the facility is, that the facility is there, and that this is all part of a bigger park. Yes.
So, is that logo, where'd we get that logo from? The sun and the blue,
That's my design.
I like it. Okay.
I'm a graphic designer, so I had to throw that in. So number 4, restoration, renovation, adaptive reuse. Rethink the pavilion and leisure center. It's a terrifically underutilized space. So transform the pavilion into a first-class, flexible, multi-use entertainment and community space with modern lighting, sound system, acoustics, and flexible seating. Interestingly enough, although there are plenty of venues in town with theater seating, there is nothing that I know of that has non-fixed flexible seating. And there are new seating systems now, which are incredibly comfortable, can be pulled out and configured in different ways depending on the situation. And then, of course, the park's master plan process opens the door to some large-scale planning. The community's input will help create a vision for the future. Issues such as climate change, water in the parks, needed renovations or new facilities, safety and maintenance can all be addressed. The results should lead to a push for major reinvestment throughout the park system. And then what future role will Sunrise Park play in this overall new vision of the park system? So the second part of this is a proposal for a 2025 citywide celebration marking the historic 1975 contribution to public recreation. 2025 is Sunrise Park's 50th anniversary. A celebration can connect disparate park projects and events. It's a 2-year opportunity to clean up the parks, increase visibility and awareness. It reacquaints the community to the importance of our public spaces. And it's inclusive of the entire community, all age groups, all socioeconomic groups, arts, architecture, sports, outdoor enthusiasts. And most importantly, this is a catalyst to propel significant future investment throughout the park system, informed by results of the new master plan. So create a branded citywide parks festival. Festive atmosphere and cohesive messaging, diverse programming to engage the community. Much of that programming already exists, but this is a nice umbrella to put it under. Building on the larger theme of public recreation, and it's an opportunity to pursue some major sponsorship opportunities. 2025 presents a unique opportunity to kick off a vision for the future of Palm Springs public recreation while honoring the past. Of course, an effective initiative for Sunrise Park, and this celebration will require coordination between multiple city departments. And almost every department in the city can play a part, or should play a part, or might need to play a part, which is a Herculean effort, but something that would be great to pursue. I will add that I've presented this to a number of organizations and people inside and outside of government. These particular groups were very excited about it, and each one of these can participate and contribute in some way. So this doesn't have to be just a city project. This can really involve the community and a lot of other community groups. So I'm going to leave with this quote. Our predecessors had the vision to greatly expand and support public parks and recreation. Let's celebrate that achievement and continue that legacy for today's community and future generations. Thank you.
Well done. I like the logo. I like the signage too.
Thank
You
you.
put in there. Looks good.
Any questions or?
Have you talked to the Historic Site Preservation Board yet, or? And I'm sure they're interested in.
There was
looking at the
someone,
historic-
yeah, someone on that committee had suggested the historic designation.
Mhm.
So normally that's used for tax advantage.
Sure.
Which wouldn't affect a public park. But it does open the opportunity to fund the sources. So that's a very interesting angle. You know, someone would have to look into that further to see if that really is the case.
And any of these groups that you approached, did anybody say, we'll give you $100,000 as long as you call the pavilion, you know, the Palm Springs Preservation Foundation Pavilion or
Well,
something?
no one went that far, but I think there really are opportunities here to involve the community financially in some way.
Like the Plaza Theater is what I'm thinking of.
Yes, I've been talking with city government about how this all can kind of work in some way, and a foundation is one way to do that. There's a general feeling that this should really be a city effort, that this shouldn't be a private effort, this should really be a city effort. But I do think once the city makes a commitment, particularly to things like renovating the pavilion and the leisure center, then I think you can start to ask people for help.
Okay.
So. Any other questions or? Okay, thank you.
Good job, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, presentation for the Parks and Recreation projects.
Okay, so I'm gonna take this one. So before I talk about where we're at on some projects, for our newer commissioners and just as a refresher, I presented this previously, I think maybe back in February or so, because we had a lot of questions about how do projects even get done at the city and who does what? So this just sort of graphic, shows that, in order for projects to get completed, we have sort of a staffing sort of resource management that we need to look into. We need to look into the funding resources. And once we have the staffing and the funding figured out and we're managing those resources, we come up with a plan. And that, of course, then yields to the project completion. So who might be staffing resources that we actually have to manage internally? For our projects, most all of them involve a variety of different departments, Parks and Recreation, of course, often the engineering department, often the Public Works Department, which is our maintenance and parks, or we often call them facilities team, the procurement department, as well as then the contractors that we want to work with. So that is sort of our a lineup of who we have to sort of get lined up and get the projects in their queue for us to have the staffing side of a project ready. For the resource of funding, each department has funding in their personal budgets. So sometimes the funding comes directly from the Parks and Recreation Department's budget. Sometimes we use our capital improvement fund to fund our projects. Sometimes we actually use funding from Measure J. We might use funding from the Quimby Act, and we also have a variety of other grants. Some projects only have one funding source, and of course, some projects have multiple funding sources. So that's the second sort of area that we need to line up to make sure that we can complete a project in a timely manner. So for the staffing side, we like to do a workload analysis to determine what the needs are from all of the department stakeholders that will be a part of achieving the success of the department or of the project. And that really sort of, starts with that question, do we have staffing to do this project right now, or do we have staffing assigned to other projects? Then we look at the funding side, which includes a financial analysis. What are the needs and what are the availability of the funds? And once we have that figured out, then we can start with the planning and the completion. So a lot of times members of the public will ask, why are projects taking so long? So usually the answer then can be found in our first two steps. It's on the staffing or the funding resource side. So just showing you that, because those are just things that we always want to think about, I think, with all of the projects that we are advancing and moving forward. I had said at the last meeting that I would talk a little bit and provide an update on our playgrounds for Victoria Park and Demuth Park. So Victoria Park's playground was completed in 2001, and the playground for Demuth was completed in 2003. This is a partnership project, so the departments that are involved are Parks and Recreation and Public Works. We have a variety of funding sources. We have capital funds, we have Measure J, and then we have a block grant fund. Our contractor has already been hired, and that is Miracle Playground, who we are working with on this project. So I'm just going to show you some of the last steps that we've done. In February of 2023, this commission, you recommended approval of the playground concepts with some recommendations on some feedback to Miracle Playground about the things that you wanted to see sort of changed. That feedback really was about the colors of the playgrounds, as well as just making sure that the playgrounds would be accessible. In April of 2023, then City Council approved the purchase agreement with Miracle Playground or Miracle Recreation for us to be able to start the procurement process. And that was a $1.35 million contract. And then Miracle Recreation or Miracle Playground, they are responsible for the fabrication and installation of the new playground equipment for both of those parks. And the playground equipment also includes sunshades. So now I will just walk you through what those parks sort of currently look like, and then talk a little bit about the equipment that we're getting. So Victoria Park right now, the playground does not have a shade structure, and most of the playground is currently closed right now because that playground equipment is past its useful life. So if you go to Victoria Park, you will see most of the playground equipment is actually behind chain link fencing. This is what the playground currently looks like. You can actually see some of that fencing with some of the equipment on the outside of the fence, but really the bulk of the playground equipment, you can see the larger structures are all off limits and behind the fencing right now. And just a few more pictures to just quickly orient you to Victoria Park Playground. This is the basic layout. It has the swing area, the spinner, as well as an area for 2 to 5 year olds, which you can see kind of in the center there. And then the area to your right is sort of that primary playground area, which is for our 5 to 12 year olds. The concept that Miracle Playground came up with is here on your screen. And this was the concept that was shown at that past Parks and Recreation Commission meeting.
Is the footprint roughly the same size as the current, and like the number of pieces of equipment comparable as well?
Yeah, great question. So this is kind of considered like a playground refresh project as opposed to sort of putting in a brand new playground. It's to really sort of, use mostly that same footprint for the new equipment. So this was the rendering with the color palette that the commission, and in particular our Park Enhancement Ad Hoc, worked on with Miracle Playground over the last several months to come up with a color palette that would be more reflective of Palm Springs and more fun for the kids who would be playing there. So this is what we ended up with. And this is just sort of moving around that park. So you can see anywhere a color could be changed, we selected a different color to make it as lively and fun for the kids. And you're not seeing, there will be a shade structure. You're just not seeing it depicted in this rendering. And then you can see some of the swings there from the back, as well as the 2 to 5 year old play area there. And here's the swings from the front as well. And it also includes the 2-person swings where the kid can be on one side and the adult on the other side. So that is the color palette for Victoria Park. Moving over to Demuth Park. So to orient you on Demuth, Mesquite is at the top of your screen. The pickleball courts would be to the right of your screen. So Demuth Park, that playground right now is open to the public. It has the primary area for our 5 to 12 year olds, as well as a smaller area just adjacent to it for the 2 to 5 year olds.
Do we have a completion time for Victoria Park?
Yeah, so the Miracle Playground right now, they're working on fabricating the equipment for both of the parks at the same time. It's looking like it will be delivered at the end of this calendar year, and then installation would start in early of 2024. And we will start with Victoria Park first because that park is closed.
What's the surface? Oh, there it is.
Yes, so the existing surface has a variety of surface treatments, and it also has like a rubberized kind of like bark, almost like mulch, which is sort of like the chopped up sort of rubber mats. So the new surfacing will be sort of that solid surfacing. This is just what the primary area looks like right now at Demuth. It's the primary area of Demuth. So that sort of chopped up sort of spongy area, we received just a lot of feedback that it's not easy to maintain and things can get sort of, lost in there too. So we're going sort of back with the traditional solid surface. This is the layout of the 5 to 12-year-old area. And this is where we landed with Miracle Playground at that last commission meeting. Just sort of, your basic sort of, like green and tan palette. And then this is where our park enhancement ad hoc then ended up with Miracle Playground to really select a bunch of bright colors for all the different components. That would be really fun for our kids. And again, same thing there. There will be a shade structure. It's just not depicted in this rendering so that you could see the equipment a little bit better. The 2 to 5-year-old area was not depicted in that. So here is what that space currently looks like. And there is the layout of that from Miracle Playground. And then here was the concept that they first came up with. And then the concept with the colors selected. See, there's fun slides as well as sort of climbing areas too. So timeline, yes, so we've already discussed then timeline. So Victoria obviously will go first in early 2025, and at the next meeting, I should have a 2024. No, we didn't.
Application process time. Good catch.
2024 with us getting the equipment at the end of this year. And then at next meeting, I'll have another update on that. We have a lot of projects that are in motion, and we have a lot of projects that we don't tend to talk a lot about in these meetings, which is really the administration sort of side of the department. So I just sort of have this graphic up again for you to just see. Then I was back from the February meeting as well. Not the only things that we're working on, but these are just some of the things that we obviously have in motion right now. In addition to the play, is there anything else on playgrounds right now? We do have some information on the website, and we are working on getting some better signage, especially now that we have the nicer renderings of what the playgrounds are going to look like, so that for the community who actually goes out to Victoria Park in particular, that they'll be able to see sort of a nicer rendering of what's coming soon. We have a number of other, though, capital improvement projects that are in progress. So I'll just give you some quick updates on these. Our recreation ball field lighting project. I have some updates from our engineering department that I'll just quickly review. So they just wanted me to update you that the notice to proceed was issued on September 18th. Oh, and the contractor for this is Southern Contracting Company. And the contract is $4.97 million for this project. So the notice to proceed was issued on September 18th. The contract is 150 working days. So the target completion for this project is April 23rd of 2024. The contractor has already submitted to Building and Safety for the construction of the foundation of the light poles. And they've been gone back and forth with comments on that. The contractor then delivered the poles to Demuth, which some of you may have seen. They began on ball fields 7 and 8 by installing the conduit. And there was also some conduit line that actually had to be installed in the Demuth Dog Park area. So we had a temporary closure there while they were digging to install the conduit line for the adjacent ball field. in the dog park area, and that is the current sort of status of this one. Oh, and I have the date there just as the reminder of when it actually went to council. So council approved that agreement on April 10th. Swim center improvements, we talked a little bit about earlier in the meeting. So this is a Measure J project. Our design team is Interactive Design Corporation. We are in the design phase or the community outreach phase for this project. We had our open house on July 18th, where we had our design team with Maria Song, architect, on site to talk to the community about the plans to improve the swim center. And then our next milestone will be to do our community outreach meeting on December 5th. And that's the outreach that will take place inside of the leisure center. This project mainly includes improvements to the locker rooms and restrooms, as well as the fencing and ADA access. So that is the scope of that project. The Demuth Park project. So engineering combined two larger capital projects because they were all happening in Demuth, and sent out one RFP so that we could hire one contractor to manage all of the projects that we had in motion for Demuth. So that contractor or that design team is Kimley Horn. This project is currently in the design phase. So when we talk about the Demuth dog parks, it's part of the larger Demuth Park project. This sort of graphic here shows you the main areas in Demuth that Kimley Horn will be working on. So those key components, which you can see written on the left, as well as in the rendering on the right that are sort of highlighted. They'll be working on the design for the large dog park, the small dog park. They'll be repaving the parking lot at the Demuth Community Center. They will be installing a new 5-stall restroom, and that will be kind of across from the large dog park area. They will repave the Little League parking lot, the soccer field parking lot. They'll be demoing the playground stage area. They'll be doing sidewalk restoration, as well as drinking fountains. The component of this project that we are doing significant public outreach on, of course, will be the large and the small dog parks. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the ad hoc section of this agenda. So kickoff for this one obviously has already taken place, and Kimley Horn is working on preliminary design concept for the dog parks.
So when they redo the Little League field, as you pull into, it's called John L. Williams
Mhm.
Park, actually, as you pull in there, because that gets flooded. I live right down
Yeah.
the street.
It does get
That
flooded.
thing, when that Hillary came,
Yeah.
the water was up to the mounds where the hills are, where people watch the Little League fields. I mean, this was like 6 feet deep.
Mhm.
Amazing. So I know that underneath there, they've got to do something. I don't know where
Yeah.
the water's gonna go.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of grading, work associated, and that's why it's an engineering project to sort of make these facilities better. We won't be doing a lot of public outreach on those components, but we will, of course, on the dog parks. But this project
Right.
is obviously, it's a huge project, and far more, complex than I'm sort of diving into tonight. And we'll continue to have engineering come periodically to give us sort of updates of where they're at on all of those components. Next are pickleball court expansion project. Design team for this one is Kimley Horn as well. We are in the design phase or the community outreach phase.
Awesome.
Coming up, I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, and again, we'll talk when we get to that ad hoc section of the presentation too, a little bit more. November 8th will be our community outreach meeting for the pickleball court expansion project. And our lead on that one, our project manager, is Michael Madsen with Kimley Horn. So he has been working with us on coming up with some preliminary design concepts to get some feedback on. Oh, and there are currently 12 pickleball courts right now at Demuth Park. The last project is the Demuth soccer field. So this one is still in the planning phase. So I don't have any additional updates yet from engineering on this one. Since our last sort of update from them back in, I think that was July. So we will get additional updates on where they're at on soccer fields. And that completes our sort of refresher of where we're at on some of our parks and recreation projects, if that was helpful.
That's very thorough. Good job, Yvonne. Okay, the ad hoc and commissioner updates. So Yvonne, I think I'll have you kind of take over at this point,
Okay.
just because of the park enhancement swim center.
Perfect. So just a reminder again, we've got our 5 ad hocs. So we've got that we established for this fiscal year. So for FY 24, we've got a dog park ad hoc, the master planning ad hoc, park enhancement ad hoc, a pickleball ad hoc, and a swim center ad hoc. I do want to make sure, because we have so many sort of larger projects that are in motion right now, that we have a good balance of commissioners on the ad hocs and that we don't have too many commissioners on each ad hoc, because we really need to make sure that we have commissioners leading the ad hocs and working with the communities as well as staff to keep things in motion. So dog park right now, we have Commissioner Moralia leading the dog park project. So I'll hand it over to you if you want to give some updates on dog park. Otherwise, I can jump in as well.
Well, the shade structure is gonna be delivered November 13th, I wanna say is when it is.
Middle of November, yeah, middle of November, we'll have
So
the shade structure.
should be installed by the end of the year, finally. And DG next week, for sure.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't know if you guys have ever been to that dog park, but it started out as sort of just sand with lots of rocks and stuff in it, so we originally took what is that machine called that like takes the rocks out?
It's like a
I
grader.
have no idea what that's called.
I think it was a
I'm
great.
not butch enough for that. So that did that. We put DG in there and then it quickly became obvious that we didn't have enough DG. So we did actually put more. And now that the City Hall Dog Park is gonna close, we need to put more DG there because we're hoping people will go to Duluth with their dogs. What I'm hearing from the community is that the people who aren't welcome at City Hall Dog Park often go to Demuth Dog Park. Which is why probably when I go to Demuth Dog Park, everybody's so happy because nobody's complaining about their dogs. But I have not seen any fights at Demuth Dog Park where I have seen at City Hall Dog Park, so go figure. But anyway, so it's just gonna close for those 5 days, 4 days, whatever that is. That's okay.
Wednesday through Sunday, and then we'll reopen on Monday.
Perfect,
And that works out with our, annual overseeding schedule
correct.
at City Hill Dog Park. So there will be a dog park in the community for dog parents to use.
Do we have
Great.
proper signage?
We do. We have good signage on our City Hall Dog Park. We do, the signage that I would like to place on the Demuth Park are some renderings of the shade structure.
Yeah.
Which will be coming, similar to the playground. We don't have a good sort of rendering there of what's coming soon. So we need to sort of get that done as well.
And we need some directional signage
Yes.
for the small dog park. Cause does everybody know where the large dog park is? So if you're at the large dog park and you're looking at it and you turn left and sort of go down that long road right there, you can park at the end of that road, get out of your car, walk down the sidewalk past kind of the ball fields that would be on your left. And then it comes up and it's just a chain link fence, but there's no sign that tells you small dog park this way. And currently it's just a chain link fence with sort of the basic ground cover, if you will. So like short term, we need at least the signage, a waste station, and better ground cover. I mean, people are going to ask, of course, for a shade structure. They're going to ask for all of that, but if we start with those basic things, I would take my dogs if it had those basic things. Well, one of my dogs is not fit for a dog park, but anyway, if they were, I would take them there if it had those basic things. Trust me, they're gonna ask for everything, but we've got to start somewhere, right?
And we have, so this is city funding, part grant funded as well. So our timeline for the grant, right now goes through June of 2025 for the large dog park and the small dog park at Demuth. Obviously, we will move as fast as possible to get those permanent sort of structures in place. But we're just starting now with Kimley Horn on coming up with additional design concepts, and we'll start public outreach meetings, and those have not been scheduled yet. So you don't have the dates for those yet.
Don't we still have the Measure J funds for the large dog park?
We do. So we have Measure J funds to do the shade structure.
Uh-huh.
So that shade structure that will be arriving like in the middle of November, that is being funded through Measure J funds.
And we didn't have enough left over for the, the thing for the Little League field to the dog park, whatever that's called.
So that's screening.
Yeah,
Our thought was that the best way to do the screening would be to have Kimley Horn come up with the screening plan as part of the larger improvement for
Okay.
the permanent dog park. But we'll chat with you about that too,
okay,
figure out the best way to do that.
because it's important. You saw a ball
yeah.
fly in there, right?
Oh, multiple times.
Yeah.
So it's netting, actually.
Mhm.
It's netting.
Right.
Mhm.
To me, it looks like the stuff at a driving range.
It's pretty much it. Same thing.
Mhm.
Same concept. Probably it's gonna be just as high,
Right.
but yeah, that's definitely needed.
And yeah,
Yvonne,
they definitely have that.
a question, given what Gary talked about with shade structure
Mhm.
and some of these projects, I realize that the timing may not play into something that's in development, but how does, moving forward, a new resource that would save budget that might allow to
Yeah.
do something grander or something else, how does that play into future planning, I
Yeah,
guess?
we'll have to look at that to see if there's an opportunity to, partner with the Art Commission on shade structures,
Mhm.
artistic shade structures that they want to do with the timing of this project as well. I think in the very preliminary concepts for the large dog park at Demuth, which initially were even done years ago, I think it had envisioned
Yeah.
that there was going to be maybe 4 or so shade structures in the park. We're starting with just sort of that one centralized one in the center. But we'll chat with the Art Commission a little bit more to try to figure out where we can actually sort of leverage resources and just ways to do things maybe more creatively too.
He sent you the renderings, right? Of like the giant flowers and stuff, or did he not send that to
He
you?
did send those, but those were just examples,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Mhm. Yeah, so not actual like concepts.
Right.
Yeah,
It was an attachment,
yeah,
correct? in the-
yeah, that you
yeah.
should have received.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of metal with little, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, the functionality is what is,
Mhm.
contemplated for the dog park or other things, it was just,
So for dog park right now, obviously we have Commissioner Moralia, who is leading our dog park. Vice Chair Coladonato, we have you sort of in just a supporting sort of seat. Master planning. Sure, okay. So I can just sort of walk through. So right now on master planning, we have Commissioner Susie Meyer, sort of in our lead report out on this. Just a reminder for everybody else, just sort of looking back, January through June, we sort of did our research and development phase. We worked on drafting the scope of services for how we wanted to approach the Parks and Recreation master planning process. The RFP was issued in July, and then through August and very early October, we did the procurement evaluation as well as conducted interviews to recommend a consultant for the project. And then this Thursday, again, as I mentioned, where we're at for our next milestone is for City Council then to approve that agreement. Our selected firm for this is KDI. They are a Coachella Valley, or they do have a sort of home base in the Coachella Valley. And they're also working with some other teams as well to meet all of the goals of our master plan. So you can just sort of see the other teams here that they're working with to do the programming, the operations, as well as some of the surveys that we want to take place to make sure that our community is engaged and we are thinking about the future of Palm Springs in the master planning process. And this is just sort of a visual that they presented to us with their design team. So master planning again, so after council approves a contract with the master planning consultant, then we need to actually execute the contract, and then we actually will start with the kickoff. Master planning obviously is going to involve this entire commission heavily. But we still do want to keep the master planning just sort of ad hoc in place for some of those smaller items that we as staff can need additional just sort of resources from to help us like in, planning community outreach meetings and engagement as well. So right now on the master planning, we've got Commissioner Meyer, who again is in that lead seat, Commissioner Davis, we have you on there, and Commissioner Moralia, we have you on there as well. I would almost, for us, 2 is probably a really great number for us to make sure that it's easy for us to be scheduling meetings as well, and also making sure that we are not expecting more commissioners to do, more heavy lifting.
I'm
Um,
happy to drop off that one.
Okay, perfect. Okay, are there any other questions on master planning right now? And again, that process we're envisioning will take us a year from when we do the kickoff, again, which could be really nice for 2025, that maybe we could actually start our implementation phase.
Do we need representation for Thursday? With that-
It's on consent, for any commissioners who would like to attend the council meeting, I think that's always, nice and beneficial. But otherwise, it's not a staff presentation, it's just really a contract approval. Park enhancements. So park enhancements, let's see, let me do some of our updates, I guess, first. We are working on, we have a Measure J project to procure exercise equipment for outside of James O. Jesse. So for our Desert Highland Park, so we are working right now with staff on selecting what that equipment will look like. We initially had delayed or deferred the acquisition of the equipment because we wanted the landscape conversions to be completed first, and then we envisioned that we would place the exercise equipment along those pathways. Because the landscape conversions are taking longer than we envisioned that they would, we already have the plans for landscape conversion. So we want to proceed with the procurement of the exercise equipment, and then those paths will just sort of meander alongside of the exercise equipment. So those are just some 2 just sort of like just stock renderings of potential exercise equipment. I've got, of course, Park Enhancements also works on playground equipments, and that's that rendering that you see in the upper right. And Park Enhancements has also been working on the shade structure for Baristo Playground. So right now, Baristo Playground does not have any shade structure over it. So we were working with our Park Enhancement ad hoc as well as our engineering department to get our shade structure for Baristo Park. And timeline for that should also be installed by the end of the year right now, is what engineering is estimating for that shade structure.
But for James O. Jesse, we haven't even ordered that
That's correct.
equipment yet.
That's correct. We've not ordered that equipment yet. That is, the exercise equipment is Measure J funded.
Mhm.
We do want to get that equipment ordered right away. So I did chat with my team about that today to get that equipment sort of spec'd, so that we can start talking about that a little bit more to make sure it's the equipment that the community wants to, so that we can actually use that Measure J funding too. Park enhancements, so park enhancements, we did have, so Jerry Alcorn was on the park enhancement ad hoc. Right now I have, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, I have Commissioner Page and Commissioner Admire. Is that right? And
Right.
I think at the last meeting, I think,
Yes.
okay,
Oh,
good,
good.
okay. And I think Commissioner Nagaya had also mentioned an interest, I think, in being on the park enhancement ad hoc. We don't typically, we always vote on which ad hocs we're setting up during the year. We don't necessarily vote on which commissioners are actually supporting the ad hocs. But we do want you to vote on which ad hocs we actually have, because that sort of helps us prioritize the work that we're doing too. Does anyone have any thoughts then on our park enhancement commissioner lead? Is anyone interested in leading that ad hoc? And then you would be doing the monthly report out at this meeting. And there would be some additional, homework assignments that you might be doing, like our other commissioners are
I'm
doing.
happy to do that.
You would like to do it?
Happy to. No, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we still want 3 commissioners on our park enhancement?
I'm flexible if you need me somewhere else. I have no issue about moving over, but you could,
Okay.
wherever, yeah,
Okay.
whatever you need to do.
Okay, so then let's see, we only actually, so we have 2 more, so we won't
Okay.
settle on park enhancement until we do the rest. Okay, so that's for park enhancements. Pickleball, of course, we've got Commissioner Finland in our lead seat on this, and then we have Commissioner Davis as well. Is that right? Commissioner Finland, do you want to share anything on pickleball?
Just to reiterate, what you had said earlier, if anyone can attend, we'll be having the meeting on, November 8th. We'll be having the design consultants from, Kimley Horn will be present, Michael Madison. I'm not sure about Frank Kaufman, but I know Michael Madison will be there. We've been having meetings in recent times with regard to the progression of, this expansion with pickleball courts. And by virtue of the meeting, we're gonna be reaching out to many people. We're gonna be reaching out to pickleball community, pickleball fans, tennis fans, area residents, and those curious about this project's development. So it's multi-tiered for those that we're reaching out to. We want to get feedback from the pickleball community as far as what they're liking about this plan, and what they're maybe not liking, or what they'd like to see changed. We do have an existing tennis court that's on that facility. We want to get some feedback from tennis fans pertaining to the tennis court. We're concerned about sound issues, so we want to be reaching out to area residents to get their feedback. Thus far, I've been advised that there haven't been significant complaints with regard to sound issues there. But there may be, because we're projecting exponentially to increase the number of courts there. So we want people to have a voice and have a say at this meeting. We want the community at large to stay informed. And also, I just want to mention that the pickleball courts are featured in this month's PS I Love You magazine. There's a picture, and the project is cited in that edition of the magazine. So again, November 8th, and over at Smith Community Center. They'll be having refreshments, and I think it's gonna be a fun evening. So if anyone here has opportunity to attend, please do.
In this, adding the new pickleball courts, is there gonna be any tennis courts added? Or is it just strictly pickleball, right?
Yeah, so.
So maybe pickleball court additions, and that's what we're looking at this point in time.
But we can, in terms of like figuring out our recreational amenities across the city, we can address that in our Parks and Recreation master planning process. You know, do we have the right number of basketball courts? Do we have the right number of community centers? Do we have the right number of water features, tennis courts, pickleball courts, and things like that? Playground. Obviously, that would probably help too. Okay. Swim center, so on the swim center right now, we have, with Jerry Alcorn, no longer being on that ad hoc, we have the 3 remaining commissioners that we have on the swim center ad hoc are already leading other ad hocs. So it's Commissioner Finland, Commissioner Meyer, and Commissioner Moralia. So the swim center is an ad hoc, but if anyone is interested in it, I feel like we could use additional commissioner support on it. In terms of where we're at on swim center, we of course have our capital project, and that outreach meeting will be happening on December 5th.
They're a fun group, come on.
Me too.
Okay.
Do you want a couple of us to not be on it though? Because now we have 4.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to make sure, because we also have commissioners that aren't here today that are not sort of, maybe placed, or actually, I should make sure Commissioner Diaz. Let's make sure that we've got Commissioner Diaz on the right.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Diaz, which ad hoc, so I had you actually on park enhancements.
Correct.
Is there, okay, and do you want to stay on park enhancements?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. So then we have, Commissioner Spellman, who is not assigned to any ad hocs. And then Commissioner Meyer, I have you. Do you
Park
want
enhancement.
to
I can,
be-
yeah, but if you need another spot, I'll participate in whichever group you need.
Okay,
I guess I should turn it on.
okay. So then for our leads, we have Commissioner Moralia on dog park, Commissioner Meyer on master plan, Commissioner Nagaya on park enhancements, Commissioner Finland on pickleball, and then Commissioner Page on swim center. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, so that completes the ad hoc, and then we just need to see if we have any other commissioner updates.
So every commissioner is on an ad hoc. then?
Well, I need to check with Commissioner Spellman then at the next meeting to see which.
Yeah, he
ad hoc
hasn't been
he would
here
like
in
to be
like
on.
4 meetings, so.
And would you clarify which one I'm on?
You are on swim
I'm
center.
swimming
Yes.
back up or,
Mhm.
okay, thank you.
Oh, so then do you want me off swim center? Because then you've got like 5 or something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we want you just focused on dog park,
Okay,
and that sort of will free up your time, so you can focus on dog park. And
You and me.
then Commissioner Finland, you would be focused on pickleball with Commissioner Davis. And then you would not need to be on swim center either. And then Commissioner Meyer would not be on swim center. She will lead master planning. And then Commissioners Page and Meyer will do swim center. Okay. Okay.
Okay, do we have any updates? We've pretty much done on the ad hoc commission updates,
Mhm,
correct?
absolutely. So it's just any other commissioner updates.
Okay, so at this time, we could go, please.
Just for the record, just to say a word of thanks to our department, it's really important, very hot one. He did a fantastic job, he was put his heart and soul into this assignment, and he was very good leader. So my thanks to him, I also him, wishing good luck with all of his initiatives in his personal life. And just want to convey for the record, our thanks to him.
Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.
Well said, Commissioner Finland. Well said. So,
Commissioner updates?
any other commissioner updates, or do you want any comment from the commissioners at this time?
Mhm.
Okay, then I make a motion to adjourn. And the next regular meeting is gonna be at 5:30.
And
I second.
Okay, I always forget about that. Okay. The next meeting will be November 27th, 5:30 PM, same place, same time. And the time is 6:59.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Jerry.